Thank you, Stephanie, and thank you everyone for being here today. I'll be presenting on creating a secure testing environment for distance education programs. And because I am coming from a nursing program, I might envelope some of our own processes into there. It might not be applicable, but I really hope that this information could be useful for other schools wanting to go down that path or are considering it. As she mentioned, my name is Michelle Cruz, and I'm the Senior Graduate Program Associate for Oregon Health and Science University School of Nursing. I mainly work with the pediatric nurse practitioner and nurse midwifery programs, but have had experience with various APNs, Advanced Nursing Practice programs. We've been utilizing ExamSoft for a little over 4 years now, and recently implemented computer-based testing throughout the entire school this last fall. Some of our advanced nursing practice graduate programs are distance-friendly, and we've learned a lot in the past few years of the best ways to administer computer-based testing for those at a distance. So going forward, this is the abstract here. You probably had an opportunity to take a look at it. I hope that my presentation will provide insight on successful processes and troubleshooting plans, as well as become helpful for those that are considering using this as an option. Here's my objectives today. I'll kind of be going over some history and background regarding distance education at the School of Nursing, our various methods of course delivery, our specific testing policies related to computer-based testing and distance education, some common security and evaluation concerns of the faculty that I've heard most often, and utilizing ExamSoft and best practices for doing so. So I'll kind of get into detail about how we set up ExamSoft so it works well for the distance students. And then going back and integrating and communicating feedback for those at a distance, so post-exam. So this is we are actually mandated by the Oregon State Board of Nursing, and we have to ensure we meet all the requirements of offering and implementing a distance program. I just wanted to give you some reference here as to what they consider distance nursing education to be, but the definition is pretty universal. Going over some methods used for distance learning. So we have webinars, just like this one. We also use our academic platform, which is Sakai. We've done pre-recorded lectures using Camtasia Relay, Echo 360, which is specific to our school. And then from there, we have supplementary reading and assignments through that course website. We have synchronous lectures, meaning the students that are distant are actually joining Portland-based students. And to facilitate those, we use these Jabber, Echo 360. Sometimes we use Skype for Business and Adobe Connect. And that's really nice for the live interaction and having the distant students feel like they're part of the class. And then we also use Typhon for clinical evaluations for the students that we send out to clinical sites. So going back to Division 21, which is under the Oregon State Board of Nursing policies, this is based on these requirements. We have to ensure that the distance students are getting the same education as the campus-based students. We also have to support instructor and student interaction and meaningful student interaction between themselves. And when you're starting from scratch, it is a lot. It seems like a lot, but we've done it for a while and kind of learned through trial and error as to what works best for us. We also have some policies put in place within Oregon Health and Science University. And this is a university policy that states that if an exam is valued at 10% or more of the entire course grade, that it must be proctored. some of our options for proctoring are virtual proctoring using ProctorU. That's not one we use too often because that does require a fee. I guess my advice would be having that inclusive as part of their tuition if they are a distance component, if that's something that you want to use. It's basically a program where there's a live proctor, but within, like, on a camera on the student's computer that could actually watch them taking their exam. The second option is what we prefer, which is a face-to-face proctor, selected by the student and approved by the faculty. They're present in the room while the student sits in for an exam. And another service is selecting another approved proctoring service. There's other services out there. I'm not completely versed in them, but ProctorU is one that we've heard of and some students have used in the past, but we normally go for the second option. So some common security and evaluation concerns of the faculty that I've heard are, how do we ascertain that exams administered at a distance are secure? How do we know if students are actually retaining the information they're taught? What's the best way to gauge the level that our distance students are at versus campus-based students? I'll go into more detail about this later. And how do we evaluate a student without physically seeing their progress? So I hope in the next slides I'm able to address all of these concerns. So going back to ExamSoft and the security settings, you have the ability to administer exams at a distance because it doesn't really require the internet when it comes to taking the exam. It does require the internet when the student is downloading the actual exam and uploading the answer file. So that's really nice for students that are in rural sites. It's easy for the student to download, and SoftTest disables the user from opening any browsers and exiting the exam, and that's if you want a secure exam. There's also time restrictions that can be placed as well, and other tools that can help the student, and actually go into a little visual here of the security options. There are a lot of capabilities and functionalities of using ExamSoft, which I really like because all our faculty are different as far as what they prefer their settings to be. You have the ability to make it a non-secure exam if it is an open book, open notes, if you want to allow them to use the files they have saved on their computer, but restrict them from the internet. You would choose the option here to block the internet. You can also randomize the sequence and create a time limit. We like the option for attaching images and other files that are supplementary to the question. We sometimes attach case studies or fetal monitoring strips for midwifery specifically for students to review when answering a specific set of questions. So it's nice that you have that option. So jumping to categorizing questions, we knew that we had to be very detailed in the way we organize the exam questions so that we can truly assess how each student is doing. And the category tool is really helpful because you have the ability to categorize the questions at very detailed levels and create categories for topic study throughout the curriculum and divide the sections further. And I have a visual on that. I don't know if you can see that very well, but this is student nurse midwives gynecology, and what we did is we organized it by topic. These are actually the modules that come out for when they have to sit for the board, the 4 fundamentals here. And then we separated the question by type, so judgment versus knowledge. And then within those, we actually, if I move forward here, take a closer look that we refined further by tagging the questions with other factors related to that topic. The more detail you can put into your question categories, the better when it comes to results. So depending on the actual course, this helps you decipher whether a student has a solid understanding of a topic based on the course competencies or objections they need to meet. And I'll revisit this when it comes to how the results are organized once we get towards the end here. So logistics, getting started, and what needs to be done for prepping for a distance exam. These are the things that we do. We have the students secure a proctor in their respective locations. We have guidelines as far as choosing their proctor and what type of setting that proctor needs to be in. We also have a form that the proctor will fill out with their information and contact. A lot of times, because we are a nursing school, we'll place them in clinical sites within their areas, and we'll actually use their preceptor or the person that they're working with or someone in that administration to proctor their exam, which is really nice. The faculty of the course will contact the proctors with expectations and troubleshooting contact information, and the students always are given the option to take the exam with the rest of the course. So a lot of our distance students are no farther away than about 4 hours. So if it's something that they want to drive here for, we also give them that option. And having the contact information, having the proctors have that, I think alleviates a lot of stress when it comes to test days, so they know they don't need to be troubleshooting anything. The students come prepared. And the way we do that is we actually have the students take a practice exam beforehand, just so they know what to expect when it comes to using the system. If they have any hang-ups at that point, we can remediate then and ensure that they're good for test date. So one thing that you have to do in ExamSoft once you've input your students is you actually have to create courses for them. The way that we've done this is we actually separate the distance students from the campus-based students when creating courses based on their cohort. It works well for dual delivery courses, meaning we have students at a distance and campus-based students participating in the same course. You still have the ability to post a specific exam to more than one cohort, and for added security, I've seen people actually change the password to start for each cohort. Just wanting to give you a visual on what that looks like. You can see here the 4 different postings for each cohort, and then but they're all actually taking the same course, and right over here is the posting ID number. You can modify posting to specific student groups, but the analytics will actually be combined in the exam summary. And I'll elaborate on this later. So best practices for exam day, just going over our kind of checklist. We normally like to release the exam 1 week prior to have students download ahead of time. This is really great for the students that are in rural areas and need to plan as far as having good internet connection. And downloading ahead of time and having them sit with their proctor is really helpful because they would just pull it up and would need the password to start at that time. So we require they also have student and proctor contact information. It's good to have that on hand in case anything does come up on test day. There is a password to start for all exams, and so we actually communicate that via email, or some faculty like to do it over the phone 15 minutes before the exam start time. And at the end of the exam, we like to ensure that the student has uploaded their answer file correctly. One other thing that we ran into was don't ever have an exam due on a Sunday, mainly because there is no ExamSoft support line available on Sundays, and it's better if it's an exam that you're going to have through the weekend. that it's due maybe midday on a Monday, just to avoid, any student not able to access help when something happens. So that's kind of our checklist prior to taking the test. So as far as the results, this is where all the feedback comes, and the grading and summary is available to the faculty immediately after all the exams have been uploaded, or as exams are being uploaded, answer files, sorry. And if you're a faculty in a large course and you have a teaching assistant or a graduate teaching fellow, it's nice because as far as access goes, because you could actually limit the access of your teaching assistant to just grading essays within the assessments that you release. So that's a helpful function for those that have more than one faculty member helping with one course. And you have the ability to create reports based on student groups. So an example would be campus-based versus distance student. I'll show you how to do that in a second. And if you're using categories, the detailed summary reports are incredibly helpful. The item analysis kind of shows the at-risk students as soon as all of them submit. So this is just a sample of what an overall summary will look like. We like how visual it is. You can also see how students performed in each category, given that you've categorized your questions. But say, for instance, you want to focus on how the distance cohort performed in your dual delivery course, or look at how each program performed if your course is comprised of more than one program. So a lot of our APN courses, advanced nursing practice courses, a lot of times more than one specialty group takes a core course. So going back to why I like to set up student courses by cohort, you can see, as I mentioned before, there's a posting number here to the left. So this gets pretty technical and down to some pretty fine details, but if you're familiar with ExamSoft, this is found within the assessment in the exam taker activity tab. You can actually uncheck the box that says score, and that'll omit the individual scores from the overall summary based on the posting ID, which is these numbers here. Or student name, you can figure out which postings to omit or include if you want to narrow down your analytics based on whether the student is distance or campus-based, or if you want to compare each program specialty. That's another way to do it as well. If you do have it separated by program, of course. So student results. The students the faculty can release grades as soon as students submit their exam, or they can release the results after they've done an item analysis. They can modify what's released, so sometimes I get faculty that want to release everything, including the answers and the questions, or you can also release everything they got wrong with or without the correct answer. It's really easy to modify what's released, and there's a preview function right before you actually release it to the student, so you can ensure that you're releasing the items you want to. And this is really nice because I have a tendency to get nervous when I release results, so it's nice that I'm able to actually view what I'm releasing beforehand to ensure that I'm doing what was asked of me. So you also have the students have the ability to go directly into what's called a secure exam review. So that would be directly after their exam. It'll prompt them and ask if they want to go into the secure exam review, and it'll actually ask for a password. For distance students, we would also communicate that when we communicate the password to start to the proctor. So if you use categories, you can allow students to have access to a detailed strengths and opportunities report. They're incredibly helpful for students because it allows them to focus on specific categories that they may be having difficulty in. So just a visual of that. This is kind of this is a sample student actually. But if you go down here and look at student nurse midwife gynecology, in the knowledge sector, it looks like she's needing some help in dermatology. So this is a really kind of quick and easy way for them to see, okay, these are the things that I need to work on. So that makes it really nice for as far as remediation goes. So for instance, the students could study this more before sitting for the board, or if there's a discrepancy in knowledge base for multiple students, then the faculty can modify or create course content to ensure that those materials are covered in future lectures. Okay, so some methods for connecting with distant students. We have the options for asynchronously via email or discussion forums. We use discussion forums quite a bit with our distance cohorts just to have them check in with us. And that's usually through Sakai, which is our course management platform. There's also synchronously via appointment or set office hours at a distance. We have this program called Jabber, which is really similar to Skype. Obviously, Skype is a non-secure connection, but Jabber is something that's required of all our distant students as well as all our students, really, because we use that quite a bit when communicating, and it's a secure connection within our school. We also have used Adobe Connect in the past, but found that that was a hit or miss when it comes to the audio. And then obviously teleconference. So if a faculty has set office hours, the students could call them or just have a discussion via Jabber if that's what's preferred. So the application of results. Like I mentioned earlier, the faculty can create material that can address areas where students need more direction. Some ways that we've done this is through creating case studies that relate to those topics. You can create live simulations that, you know, if they're having a deficit in a particular area to refine those skills, you can actually have them review case studies, and maybe during a asynchronous or synchronous class, they can demonstrate. Another way of doing this is actually being able to place students in clinical areas where you're finding they need a stronger knowledge base. Obviously, this applies more to a clinical aspect type of program, but there are ways. These are just the ways that we've done it. So sometimes we actually work with the preceptor that the student is with and let them know, hey, they need more GYN experience or anything as far as focusing and really developing their knowledge base for a specific category. And the students can self-analyze and, you know, create a plan for themselves as far as how they can really spruce up their knowledge and specific deficits that they're having. So why it works. Knowledge is power, and we really like the detailed analysis for the faculty and student really bring forward the areas that need more attention. For distance or face-to-face students, it really works for both. When administered to a whole class, that includes both cohorts, and you can kind of, it's nice to be able to check and identify any discrepancies between the groups by having the distance cohort be one course and campus-based students be another, even if they're all in the same program. we like running reports based on student-specific groups. So when we have core classes, we like to see if each specialty is actually excelling in their particular topics that they are supposed to be specialized in. That's another way of checking there. So it really is a really strong tool for reporting and assessing retention and future course planning. So just to summarize, these are the topics I covered today. I really hope that you were able to take something from this lecture. I know we have learned a lot through the years of administering exams to those at a distance by trial and error, and it's been really great to be able to have the opportunity to share our experience with everyone. Just some references. I took some policies out of here, and questions.
Thank you so much, Michelle. We're going to go ahead and open up the forum for our Q&A session. If you do have questions for Michelle, now is the time to type them into the GoToWebinar control panel under the questions area, and we will get to each of them. I've already got a few, Michelle, so I'm going to go ahead and jump in if that's okay.
Sure.
The first one we have is, do you allow students to use any resources during their exams?
Depends on the exam. We have had students, we have had non-secure exams is what we like to call them, and they're normally, based on our policy, less than 10% of their overall grade. We have had open note, open book, but usually we block the internet, so that was the thing I showed earlier. You have the ability to block the internet, but allow them to use their materials and anything saved onto their computer. So we have had non-secure exams before.
Okay, great. The next question is, do distance students take exams together in one location or individually?
Normally for our groups, they take it individually, and that's why, depending on the exam, if it is a secure exam that requires a proctor, we have them choose a proctor within their own areas, and then we communicate with that proctor directly. Sometimes it's actually a clinical preceptor, as I mentioned, but yeah, if they're living in the same area and they want to use the same proctor, that's absolutely okay with us, as long as they've received the form and we have their contact information.
Okay, and a follow-up question, do the distance education exams and the, quote, normal exams happen at the exact same time?
We have had them both ways. So most often they happen at the same time. So the distance students have to, so then they're not having to find another day as far as availability in their clinic schedules. We like to take the final and midterm usually at the same time the course was held, and so that's something that's required of everyone, and we don't really have to worry about people in different time zones.
Okay, thank you. Do you release different information in the end of exam report to distance versus, quote, normal students?
Usually no. A lot of times we release everything all at once, depending on the faculty need, both to the distance students and the campus-based students, mainly because we want to ensure that they're getting the same information as the Portland-based students. If there's some discrepancy for some reason with the distance group, the faculty may release more information, but usually they stick to releasing the same type of information out to both student groups.
Okay, next question is, how is class participation or interaction assessed for your distance students?
Well, it's for a lot of the distance hybrid courses, meaning we have students in the class physically and also at a distance taking the same course at the same time. We actually require them to connect with us via Jabber, and Jabber is really similar to Skype, except it's a secure and direct connection to us at our school, and it's kind of like a video conference, and we require them to actually have, their laptop with capabilities for a webcam and a wireless headset, so we're able to hear them. So it's kind of like they're in the class. Essentially, that's the ideal.
Okay, great. Next question is, does proctoring work or integrate with ExamSoft?
That's something that we actually, that's a reason why we haven't really, another reason why we haven't really tried it is because we kind of have a hard stop when the student has to pay an extra fee because it's really not fair for our students, and we don't integrate that as part of their tuition currently. But I've talked to other schools and they have tried it and it's been successful for them, though I don't have personal experience of administering an exam that way.
Okay, and just to piggyback on that, the answer to the question is yes, we do integrate with ProgU.
Okay.
Although it's not something that a lot of our clients do, just because there are additional fees on the ProgU side that come along with it. That's all I have at this point. So we're going to go ahead and wrap things up. Thank you so much, Michelle, for your presentation this afternoon. Just a quick reminder to everybody in attendance today, this has been recorded, so you'll be getting an email in the next day or so with a link to the recording if you'd like it, or to share with others. Also, when you do close out of the webinar, you'll get a quick pop-up with a very short 5-question survey. We would really, really appreciate you filling that out for us. And thank you so much for attending this afternoon. We know it's a busy time of year with finals and the end of the semester, so we appreciate your attendance. Everybody have a really great day.
Thank you.